On this week's episode of How to Ship, we're going to be going over the Vermont, Brisbane, and Hayate. Let's get started. First, let's cover America's favorite brick of a battleship, the Vermont, the one-hit wonder of the battleship caliber. The Vermont, being better known as the Brick, is the steroid-fueled juggernaut of the American tech tree line. It has 12 457s that pack a punch, with one of the biggest AP salvos in the game. Like H.G. John Hahn 1000 said, you have a 50-50 chance with this ship to either death strike someone or do 0 damage. Now, a key feature of this ship is that every time these guns fire, you can hear in the background the American Eagle and the national anthem.
We hit him with that American Eagle screech, that...
Now, to help that 50-50 chance be more in your favor on death striking someone, make sure to yell, "Rig smash," whenever you shoot your guns. This will definitely help you hit your target more. You just need to go north immediately. Please, come on, please, no, don't go for the, come on. Yeah, brick smash. The Vermont does come with 2 major drawbacks. Since it is American, it suffers from being obese with a thick ass.
Damn, boy, he's thick, boy. That's a thick ass boy.
It's not very fast, and it also has a very long reload of 40 seconds. You'll have a lot of time to be reading and answering emails, even have a phone call, answer some texts, maybe go get a cup of coffee while you wait for that reload to be going on. How you want to build the Vermont is pretty simple. You build into concealment and tankiness, which means you build into getting your heal back faster and having more of them. So I would suggest taking the 2-point anti-air skill, since carriers love to go after her, so you can get your heals and damage con back quicker. One thing to note with the Vermont, you also get DFAA, so even though the CVs will be coming after you, you're also able to hit them back with that DFAA and bring down America's might upon them. You will also want to build into the 3-point heal skill, so that when you hit 2 million potential damage, you can get an extra heal. Now, this is going to be huge for playing the Vermont, since this ship does get a 50% heal of Citadel damage instead of the regular 10%. With this skill, you also get your heals back faster. With this build, every time you hit that heal button, you're pretty much stuffing protein powder down every single hatch of the Vermont. So keep spamming that heal button. Now, you can also build into Brisk to go a little bit quicker if you want, instead of the anti-air skill, but it's more of a choice on if you want to be able to get your DCP and heal back quicker, or if you want to go a little bit quicker when you are dark. Now, for the good part is how to play the Vermont. Pretty much wherever spawn you're on, make sure you sit back in the beginning and push toward whichever spawn you're on, either the 1 line or the 10 line. Now, if you're in the middle, you're going to want to head toward the weaker side, where you see most of the enemies going to or pushing toward. While you are going a snail's pace, because this ship is very slow, do some long distance sniping at broadside targets. If you are able to hit them at this distance, you're going to smack them like a truck. For the American battleships in particular, you want to make sure you aim a little higher due to the slower shells. So make sure you aim a little bit higher than your conventional battleships like the Kremlin, the Conqueror, St. Vincent, like those. You want to aim a little bit higher on the American battleships due to those slower shells. Now, once you're on the flank, make sure to try to sit around 14 kilometers and back, because if you do push too far in, you are way too slow to get away. So do not get too close to the enemy, or you will be farmed to death, which is not fun at all. Since the Vermont does have slow shells, you can use this to your advantage because you're going to be able to shoot over islands. So make sure to watch out for any target who happens to be making island their waifu. You can then use your spotter plane to look over the island and get sweet citadels on those broadside cruisers or battleships that are making those islands their waifus. You can also use your enhanced acceleration to juke shells from battleships and submarine torpedoes along with this ship's amazing turn radius. Since this ship is not very fast, you do get an amazing turn radius, which is godsend for having this ship being a slow ship. Now, to be able to dodge these torpedoes from submarines, you want to stay around a quarter speed, and then you go full power once the homing is off, and you're going to be able to dodge their torpedoes. Now, you're going to be able to go from 1 knot to 5 knots, and it'll take about 50 years to do so, but you'll be able to dodge these torpedoes no problem. Make sure to type brick smash in the comments if you learned anything useful about the Vermont. Also, in my recent funny compilation, I have a lot of dev strikes using the Vermont, so definitely check out that video to get more Vermont content. It's time to cover the HE cousin to the Minotaur with one of the highest Riz scores in the game, the Brisbane. The Brisbane is the HE open water cousin to the Minotaur, which is able to be gotten for coal in World of Warships. It doesn't have the same AP or smoke as the Minotaur, but it has 12-kilometer radar with 20 13.5 kilometer torps. The guns do have both HE and AP with a kick-ass attitude. You also get aerial depth charges, which is another plus over the Minotaur, who just gets surface depth charges. This ship as a coal ship option is definitely a great choice, and I'm going to show you how to handle it. How you want to build the Brisbane is 2 ways. You can build it for full concealment, or you can do more open water build. Now, for the concealment build, you want to build partially into torpedoes with a 3-point skill for extra torpedo damage, and focus the rest on getting your radar and hydro back as soon as possible. In this build, you also want to build into RPF to be able to hunt destroyers and potentially submarines if given the chance. Along with into the guns in the module section, do not go range with the guns. You do not need it in the concealment build. Now, that's going to be more into the open water build, which we'll be talking about in a second. For the open water build is where you don't build into concealment in the modules, and you build into maneuverability and range for the guns. Now, you can still build into the radar and hydro and into torpedo damage, but this build is for the DACA elite who want to do one thing and one thing only. You want to hold down that trigger and never let go. How you want to play this beauty is pretty simple. You just want to do the following. You're going to want to go to the flank. Or if there is no CV, you want to go middle to support the destroyer early game. Now, during this time, you want to make sure you use your RPF to help guide your destroyer to know where the enemy destroyer or submarine player is going, so you can try to go for a potential early kill. Now, if you don't want to do this early game, that's perfectly fine. You can either use an island to be behind to farm, like you're taking it out on a date, right? You want to take out this date fancy, right? You want to go to Olive Garden for those endless breadsticks. Breadsticks. Or you can open water with it and use those 13.5 kilometer torps to slap anything, since you do have 20 torpedoes on this thing, which is just a shit ton, even making the great Shimakaze jealous of all the torpedo power that you have at your disposal. This ship is not just great at open watering cruisers and battleships alike, it is also the destroyer's worst enemy. With its great concealment and 12-kilometer radar, it makes a killer pairing with the amount of DACA this ship can put out. Normally, you're going to be farming with this ship, either using island cover or kiting using your insane maneuverability and acceleration to dodge and weave, or just dodge or weave to not take any damage. Now, this ship is a Minotaur hull, so you're extremely squishy as hell. Even though you do have a super heal, you can still get death struck easily. So treat any shot to be your last. Always being on your toes and watch out for any salvos from anyone, because any battleship would love to death strike you while you're playing this ship. If you're in a carrier or submarine match, which is bound to happen to be a lot, always be on your toes. Carriers can fly into your 6.9 kilometer anti-air range pretty easily and have you spotted for a long time. And submarines, with being rough to detect, will keep you spotted, so always be on the move and never stop moving in this ship. Always be on the move and always be on the lookout when there's a carrier or a submarine in the match. Now, even though this ship is rough to play, it has one of the highest potentials for damage and carnage in the game. It is an insanely high DACA ship, incredible DPM and torpedoes. If you know how to use this thing, you're going to be a DACA carnage causing machine. Now, if you enjoyed this section more than the Vermont section, make sure you type Riz in the comment section. Now, for the final ship in today's episode of How to Ship, we'll be talking about the X3 XP ship, the ship that's been underestimated for too long, the legendary Hayate, the jack-of-all-trade destroyer for the Japanese. The Hayate once was the 3XP rival to the legendary Smalland, which is by all means one of the best ships in the game. It pretty much made the Hayate irrelevant. Like, why would you pick the Hayate when you could get the Smalland, which is just god tier compared to it? But now the ship has a chance to shine with its recent buff of its guns and adding a reload booster to the torpedoes, which makes this ship a formidable opponent in the open seas. As a coal ship choice, you can never go wrong with this ship. It is definitely a high skill stealing ship, which means huge damage potential and all the victories. How you want to build into Hayate is more of a jack of all trades style, so you build a little into everything. I personally take radio location to be able to hunt other destroyers and submarines, but you guys will have to do that. The rest of the build is pretty basic. You build into main guns in the module side with concealment. In the skills, you want to build into tankiness, which is survivability expert, with torpedo speed in either torpedo reload or guns, depending on your personal preference of either wanting more DACA or more torpedoes. I go with guns since this thing has a torpedo reload boost consumable, so who needs the torpedo reload skill at that point? With this build, you do have a 6 kilometer concealment, so make sure you remember that when you're trying to fight other destroyers and or submarines. With the Hayate, you can play her pretty simple. You can go pretty much anywhere on the map. You can go mid, flanks, wherever. Pretty much just stay on the flank where you spawn and do not let your concealment cross the enemy side of the map early game. If you do cross the enemy side of the map early game, you're more than likely going to die early and have your whole team calling you a scrub. Your job in this ship is to keep the enemy destroyers from harassing your team. So use your great concealment and smoke to farm potential targets. If they decide to push into you, great. You can use your 12 kilometer torpedoes to first get a flood and have another set of torps from the reload booster, which is about 20 seconds after. You want to set another set of torpedoes after the first to be able to get floods to finish those targets off. You can also use the smoke to fire on the enemy to distract them, to either push them into torpedoes or to push them from getting them to push into your team. You can use it as a deterrent. A lot of times when people start getting farmed by a destroyer in smoke, they most of the time turn out, so you can use this to give your team more time to be able to recover, get more heal back, and just to farm that enemy out as they're pushing away. When you are fighting enemy destroyers and you're being forced to turn out and kite, do this one simple trick and you will win most of your fights. When you are being forced to kite away when you're fighting a destroyer, only use the 2 rear turrets on the Japanese boats. The Japanese boats have amazing HE and they have a very slim body on these ships, which means you're way easier for you to just use the 2 rear turrets. Do not turn your side to use 3 turrets, because if you do, you're giving the enemy way more of a target to shoot at, which means you're gonna take way more damage. So just show your rear, do slight wiggles back and forth while you're showing only the 2 turrets, so you're able to do as much damage as possible with showing as little of your hull to the enemy as possible. Make sure you can also use AP on broadside battleships and cruisers if they're within about 7 kilometers, but only do this in smoke and not open water, or you'll be toast. So please don't do that. Now, all of these strategies change when there is a CV in the match. If there is a carrier in the match, definitely be way more cautious when you're picking your gunfights. If you notice the carrier coming near you, make sure to smoke up and turn on your anti-air to push the carrier away and rinse and repeat. Since they have recently made it easier to hunt down submarines, make sure to use the knowledge of their pings to hunt them down, but definitely be careful of being too aggressive when you're hunting down these submarines, because submarines will a lot of times ping or try to lure a destroyer to go after them so that their team is going to be able to kill them. Now, if you made it this far in the video, make sure you type Hayate Best Destroyer in the comments. Now, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment. I definitely greatly appreciate that. Make sure you type also your ship recommendations for these videos. I have been taking ship recommendations that you guys have been putting in the comments. I would greatly appreciate if you guys could do more ship recommendations. So thank you guys all again for watching. Thank you guys for all being here. I'm glad you guys are liking the new How to Ship series, and I will talk to you all later.